lovelies, how are you? I'm a little bit late tonight, 5:35, you know. Punctuality, just not my strong suit. I hope you're all happy, hope you're all well. It is freezing here in Melbourne. I'm running a bit late because I went to the physio. I started a bit of strength training. Now hello Heather darling, I am always banging on about strength training. It's really, really important, particularly it's important for everybody, but particularly for women as they get past menopause, we start to lose muscle mass. Hello Susan. And so when we lose muscle mass, what happens is that every year you just lose a bit of your strength, and you have to actively be doing something to counter that. So just your everyday walking around isn't enough. So now you all lovelies know I've got muscular dystrophy, tiny bit shit, but there's not much I can do about it, and consequently I don't have a lot of muscle mass. Part of the reason that I developed my pre-diabetes was because I don't have the muscle mass to support really good, strong, a lot of carbohydrate, and believe me, I had a lot of carbohydrate. So anyway, long story short, I've just come from physio where I'm doing a little bit of strength training. Probably by everybody else's account, it's not a huge amount, but for me it is, and I certainly came out feeling my glutes had done a bit of burning, so I suppose that's good. Hello Brooke darling, how are you all? I'm really, really happy. So tonight I'm actually cooking, well, you know I like to just fling stuff in a pot, and I'm inventing a dish. I'm not sure what I might call it, but I'm thinking Tuscan chicken or something like that sounds good. So basically I've got chicken. Now I'm back on the Our Cow bandwagon. I know a lot of you know that I talk about them. They do some chicken. Now the chicken's expensive compared to normal chicken, but it's free range, it's beautifully cared for chickens. Hello gorgeous Caroline. And the quality of the meat is so much different to the other meat. A lot more omega-3 in it. So again, if you're going to eat chicken and you can afford to get the Our Cow ones, I'd recommend that. Or if you've got a local producer where you know the quality of your chickens, that they're not, you know, just raised in a barn and fed lots of grains, that they're out foraging, that they're really beautiful. Well, these are organic free range, which I think is probably the pinnacle of chicken. So anyway, enough about that. I've also got a bit of chorizo, so I thought that combination of chicken and chorizo. I've got a whole heap of Mediterranean style veggies, which of course, you know, nothing too exotic. So there's some onions, some mushrooms, some capsicum, some spinach, and I'll probably fling an eggplant in. So that little combo, I've got a bit of sauce, my favorite, the Valverde passata. I've got some sun-dried tomatoes, and I'll fling some olives in. Now, I'm also going to put in, if I reach over here, a bit of magic. So the magical ingredient this time is going to be a lemon and this tangy za'atar spice. So I thought I'll try this for a bit of something different because, you know, I'm always doing the spag bowl mingly stuff, and this one I like a bit of anything that's new. And this you can use like a dukkha if you're making if you've got like a low carb bread or something like that you wanted to dip something in, you can use this. You can sprinkle it on your veggies, and it's got, the first ingredient is toasted sesame seeds, so that's good because that's something a bit different. It's got some sumac, garlic, onion, cumin, pink Himalayan salt, marjoram, thyme, and black pepper. And it's it smells almost like it's lemony, which is why I thought, well, that'll go well with the lemon. So there we go. I should stop talking and just start cooking, right? So that's a good idea. Now, it helps if I turn on the heat. Now, I've got my bit of butter. So again, you know my big deal. So it's 20 to 6. I really want to have this all done and cooked by 6 o'clock. So to show you that you can put together a really good, interesting meal, delicious, lots of protein, veggies, you know I'm not afraid of fat. So I've just got butter. I could put ghee, I could put oil. I just happen to have butter that's handy. I've actually got a new pot, but I left it in the car and I was already running late enough that I didn't have time to go and get it. So next cooking show, if I'm cooking something in the pot, it'll be with my new cookware, and I'll let you know whether it's any good. So the other thing I want to just talk about while everyone's watching is a bit of lockdown. I've invented a new syndrome. It's called lockdown schmockdown syndrome. And I'll tell you what, I think this week I've got it, where suddenly, you know, I've just got a bit of the lockdown blues. I know, and I'm talking a lot to myself about it, I know that compared to lots of other people, I've got it pretty good. I'm going to work, I get to go out of the house, you know, I'm not homeless, I'm living in a house, I've got pets galore, we've got heating, I've got plenty of food. You know, what is there to complain about, really? That's what my logical brain says. But my heart, my other brain says, I, like everybody, am just sick to death of it. I'm not sick to death of the restrictions. I understand why they're in place. So I'm not angry with anybody. It's just, maybe I'm angry with the virus. You know, it could just piss off and that would make our lives much better. Then there'd be nobody blaming everybody, nobody fighting, nobody worrying about who's doing the right thing, who's wearing their mask under their nose, who's not wearing a mask, who's vaccinated, who's not vaccinated, any of that. Because really, at the end of the day, all of those questions do is just divide us as a community. And that's really just unhelpful. It's a really unhelpful way to function. I forgot to get a, what do you call it? A wooden spoon. I'll just let this, so I've got 2 packets because as you know I always batch cook. So these are half a kilo each and they're thighs. So I've got a kilo of chicken thighs. Again, if you happen to have them pre-chopped, even better. Just turn that up a bit. But you know, again, you know I'm not a chef. Like, don't bother watching my chopping style because really I might as well just get a meat cleaver and hack into it because it doesn't matter. You know, I like rustic. I like big. Fine, whenever I hear something finely chopped, I kind of almost have PTSD, thinking, oh my God, that's never going to happen. So just a couple of big chunks of this chickeny stuff. So I think that the anger, if we want to have some anger, which we all do, then it is to the virus. Because at the end of the day, I don't agree with all the decisions that are being made. Nobody does. And that's the whole thing. A person in leadership, no matter what political party they are, anything, they will never please all of the people all of the time. Okay, and that's some of the things that we talk to our people about. Because quite often, hello darling, quite often people, you know, there is this other concept called the disease to please, and that is when you do want to keep everybody happy. But at the end of the day, we can't. So it's an impossibility. So therefore, I understand that no matter what decisions are made by anybody, not everyone's going to be happy with them. You know, teachers aren't happy, students aren't happy. Neither would people be happy if we had, you know, hundreds of thousands. It doesn't actually matter because there's nothing we can do about whatever the decisions that are made are. They just are. Hang fire. I'm just going to give my hand a little wipe because it's got raw chicken on it. So remember that thing that you know, there's a lot of things that go on in life and there's a lot of stuff that we absolutely have no control about. And when we spend all of our time focusing on that, then really we miss the opportunity often to focus on the stuff that we can control. So I've just flung the chicken in and realised I haven't done the onions, but you know what, I don't care because this is easy cooking. There's no rule-free cooking. I'm just going to fling in some onions on top. So they'll just do that browning thing that onions and meat do. That's over there. Right, so what we're going to do is focus on the things that we can control, because that makes life easy. Okay, and if anything, I'm actually giving myself a pep talk as much as you. Is there a piece of chicken under the board? God, I hope not. No. Oh, goodness me. Whoever did that, good spotting. Good spotting. Yes, it was a bit of chicken under the board. How incredibly weird. Right, and again, it's now in. The board's over there. My hands are clean. And I wish I could see a bit better tonight. I can't see all your comments, as you know. One of the things we're actually investigating, we have used this before, a service called StreamYard, Stream Duck or something like that. It's a picture of a duck. And it's a service that you can stream and you get all the comments, because this is the thing that you guys know. I don't get to see all your comments until right at the end when I go to post the video up. And here I am thinking I'm talking to nobody, and then half the time there's all these questions or comments and I've just missed them during the cooking, because Facebook, for whatever reason, in its wisdom, has decided, let's make this tricky. I don't know why. I mean, they would get more people watching and engaging if it was easier. But anyway, again, totally out of my control. What's in my control? Working out whether I can find a better system. So, part of life, as you know, focus on what you can control. Say this to my kids. Be part of the solution, not part of the problem. So, you know, I could just go on here and rant about how annoying Facebook is. But having said that, I'm using it as a means to get to chat to all you lovelies. And, you know, it's not perfect, but hell, I'm not paying for it. I feel sick just looking at her. Look. I think you might, are you talking about Gladys? It's our brain's way, I'm not sure, hopefully you're not talking about me, or the chicken that was stuck under the board. But anyway, again, focus on what we can control. We can't control anything that's being decided. We literally can't, which is part of our uncomfortable feeling, isn't it? That we have absolutely no control, that we're stuck here without our autonomy, that we don't get to make decisions, and that we don't get to decide really basic things that we used to take for granted. But I tell you what, how quickly do we slip back into taking things for granted? Like even in Victoria, right? We had the harshest lockdown of all time last year, 111 days. We actually had two. Second one, 111 days. And then we all come out of it slowly, so slowly, it was torturous. And then, oh, here comes somebody. Oh, it's a child coming in from work. So incredibly tortuous. And the thing is that when we came out, we all slipped back into our old lives really quickly, to the point that we're just going mask, mask, QR. I'm not doing any of that. We just forget how painful things are, and we forget it very quickly. Tiny bit like childbirth. I don't think anybody would have children if we all had to remember how terrible it was at the very time. So, again, I'm rambling on a bit, but really what I want to say is, when you find your mind running around, focusing on, you know, they should do this, I can't believe they haven't done that, how come they've waited so long, how come they haven't waited long enough, all of those sorts of things, just stop and realise it's just your mind trying to control essentially the uncontrollable. This is a situation that we can't control as much as we want to. You know, as humans, we like to know what's in store for us. And I've talked about this before. And I often talk to people about the idea of the cave woman. You've got a cave woman, she's in her cave house, and in that cave house, she knows everything. She knows every nook, every cranny. Because remember, people are not actually very robust when it comes to defending themselves. We don't have scales, we can't run very fast, we haven't got any claws, we've got rubbish teeth, and we can't fly. So part of our defense mechanism was being in a tribe and using our very clever brains. So when we're in areas now where we don't know the landscape, so in your cave, you feel very calm, very focused, you know exactly where everything is. If you've got a little job you do, you know exactly where it is. But let's say one day cave woman has to walk out to another town, and as she's walking, she walks out into her garden. She knows her cave garden very well, and she knows right down the bottom is a snake under a rock, so she doesn't want to stay, she doesn't want to go there. So she doesn't, she goes, I won't go there because I know that's dangerous. I'm just going to be everywhere else. And so then she's walking along and she's suddenly gets a bit anxious because she doesn't know the landscape. She doesn't know where the threats are. She doesn't know where the, which rock has the snakes under it, which tree has, creatures that could come out. This is part of it. When we know everything, when we know what's ahead of us, our other bit of the brain can plan. When we don't know what's ahead, what was this? There was an escaped chicken piece, but I found it, I know. Didn't want to get in the pot. So when we know what's ahead, we can plan, and that makes us feel better. As humans, we don't deal with uncertainty. So when we're trying to focus our attention, so basically, when we try and focus our attention on controlling the situation, we want certainty and we don't always get it. So into the pot, I've got the chicken, it's browned, I've got the onion, I'm flinging in a eggplant that I've just chopped up. I'm going to fling in a bag of mushrooms. They can all go in there. Gosh, I probably should have put it in a pot rather than a pan. It's completely escaping. Guess what? I've got the lid tonight. Hooray! So I'm just going to put the lid on that to let those mushrooms shrink down a bit so I can fit some more stuff in. So, and I'll put this sauce in. And you'll remember that the spice I'm going to use is za'atar, slightly tangy. So, in fact, I'm just going to put some of that in too. So, I don't have, how much? I don't know, a few shakes. Big shakes, because it's a big dish. So, if you want to have a rough idea, a sachet of whatever mingle stuff is 30 grams. This big jar is 120. So I could sort of put in a quarter of the jar if I wanted to, but I don't think I'll need that much. And I'll just put in that sauce. I'm just going to let all that shrink down a bit because I've put too much food in the pot. The good news is it'll shrink down so it doesn't matter. Because again, remember, you're the boss of you can do whatever you want. As long as you're following the restrictions. Maybe this is how I'm getting my little rebellious streak, by not following the rules when it comes to recipes and cooking. I try and follow the rules as far as safety goes by not chopping my veggies on raw chicken board, although the escaped bit of chicken was doing its best to make sure that didn't happen. But yeah, I don't follow any other rules. I just fling in a pot. You can make such good food with fling in a pot. And it doesn't have to take long, although it is possibly going to go a bit longer than my 20 seconds because I spent so long yakking that I forgot to stir. So anyway, I've just turned that up on high. I've got a capsicum there that I've roughly chopped. And I'm using this salt. What have I got here? Mingle, and I use it like you. Yes, absolutely. Just in time for the grand reveal. Yes, well at the moment the grand reveal is looking very unexciting because I have a big fat pot that is full of essentially eggplant, but it'll shrink down. This is the thing I love about vegetables is they do shrink down. I've got some chorizo now. I didn't got time. This chorizo is free-range Australian pork. It's got a few stuff, like it's not probably the cleanest one. I would normally try and get something from either like a butcher that will do their own. That is often my preferred. If you're lucky enough to have a butcher that does their own meat, then that's a brilliant thing to do. But I didn't. This one is just from the supermarket, and I chose it because out of all of them, I thought, well, at least it's free range, and it's actually is free range, not the sneaky thing that they sometimes write, which is bred free range, as in BRED. And what that means is that the piggy was born, the mum was allowed out, and the piggy was born, and then the mum got put back in her horrid little thing. This one is actual free range, so that chews me up a bit, but it has got quite a few things in it that I wouldn't normally have. It's got some maltodextrin, which, as you know, I'm not a big fan of. It's got a little bit of sugar and stuff in it, so but the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm not loving it. So I'll just put one stick in. How's that? Hedge my bets. When we talk about food, it's really about having good whole food most of the time. Okay, if every now and then somebody has something and it's either got a bit of sugar in it, or it's got, you know, they have something with a bit of colouring, or a bit of, I don't know, soy lecithin or some sort of emulsifier, again, our bodies are incredibly resilient and will cope with that. What they won't cope with is repeated. It's like, if you imagine, it's a bit like an insult, like an assault on your body. They just don't cope with it all the time. They cope with it sometimes. So if it's some of the time, don't worry. If it's all of the time, well then, you know, worry a bit. So, again, I'll just give this a little stir now. Good, I'll be able to fit more stuff in soon. So, for those of you who joined late, I'm cooking chicken. I think I'm calling it, well, I don't know what I'm calling it, but it's sort of like a Tuscan chicken. But instead of using traditional Italian spices or Greek spice, I'm using the za'atar, which is a Middle Eastern style. It's a bit zingier, and to cope with that, add in with that zingy, I'm going to put a lemon in. So I'll put them in now while I'm thinking about it. So it's got lemon and this tangy za'atar stuff. And it's got some chicken, some free-range cow chicken. It's got onion. It's got a jar of passata. It's got an eggplant, some chorizo, and now I can fit in the prosciutto. Good, and I'll just let all that go in. And the other thing is, I'll put in a bit of this salt. As you know, I've started buying this. It's the Murray River, so it's local. I'm really a bit worried that what would be not acceptable to speak about another woman like that. I'm missing all of those. I'll have to get back on. I'm sorry, I can't see them all. Again, they're whizzing by Facebook. So, here we go. We've got this really nice looking dish. Lots of colours in it. As you know, I like a bit of colour. And what I will do, I'm going to put the lid back on and just let that actual cook, let all those flavours go together. And at the end, I'll put in some spinach, because I really like spinach tossed through a dish. In fact, I can put these in now. These are some sun-dried tomatoes. I won't put the oil in, because remember, this oil's in canola, but I do just like sun-dried tomatoes in for a bit of zing. So I'm just flinging those in. So I think that life goes back to the idea that we need to recognize that we can't control everything. In fact, we can't hardly control anything. When you hold the outcome of things lightly, then you're less frustrated, I think, when the outcome doesn't go the way you may have been anticipating. And the thing is that when we, and it's easy to say that, basically what I'm sort of, you know, it's like saying, oh, well, what, so you don't ever look forward to things? Of course I look forward to things. Looking forward to things is the most wonderful thing in the world. But when you have no control over a situation, if you can hold onto it lightly and recognize you have no control over the situation, then that allows you as a person to feel less out of control. So back to the cave woman, right? So she doesn't know, she knows about her cave, she knows about her garden, she knows where the danger is, and now she's out, venturing out, and she doesn't know where things are. So we are hardwired when we don't know the scenario to get anxious and to get worried. It's normal. And it kept us very safe for a long time. Now the thing is, of course, that we don't necessarily need to be worried about snakes jumping out, you know, in our day-to-day. Maybe where I live I do, but I tend not to worry too much about that stuff. But our brain and body still behave very much like we are, you know, literally in physical danger. And honestly, as humans, it's not that long ago that we really were. I mean, we lived with threat all the time, you know, and some societies still do. I mean, there are people, again, where I live, that I guess there's the threat of a snake, but I don't think about that very often. But, you know, maybe in America they get threatened by bears. Maybe if you live in the Arctic Circle, you're threatened by polar bears. But you know, maybe if you're a tribe in Africa, you'd be threatened by elephants and those sorts of things. But the majority of us living in our modern Western society are not actually physically threatened for our life on a day-to-day basis. But our brain often thinks we are, and it sends all these neurochemicals, neurotransmitters from our adrenal glands, our adrenaline and our cortisol. And what do? They go up and make a heartbeat so that we can run, give us deep breathing so we've got oxygen into our lungs to fight off this threat. They divert blood away from our gut to our limbs. And the other thing they do is they put up our blood glucose. So our liver, on this side, our liver makes glucose. So you don't have to eat anything, and your blood glucose will go up if you're stressed. It is absolute biological fact that this happens. So the stress can be an illness, that's a stress on our body, or the stress can be psychological stress because we're worried and anxious. So we just need to be very mindful of that when we worry and when we try and control things, the main person that it's actually harming is ourselves. It really is ourselves. So I just think let's be mindful of that. When we, as I said, spend a whole heap of time trying to control the uncontrollable. I'm just flinging the last bit of capsicum in because now there's a bit more room. The person that gets harmed is often ourselves. So recognizing that is really important, and the first step forward to actually taking control. Feels like you have no control, but you are. This would be really good at looking at this. This would be great as a paella. If you had like a seafood mix in it, in fact it is really, now that I look at it, not really reinventing the wheel. Although, as I said, I've done it with that za'atar flavour, which I reckon, I'll just get a spoon, I'm going to give it a taste, because I reckon I might need a bit more. Yeah, it does need a bit more. Now, for those of you who watched my mousse last week, for me, I know some people have put that didn't work for them. I'm not sure what happened, but for me, it worked like a dream. It is absolutely one of the new dishes that is on. So, I mean, it was a massive amount. You don't have to make it, you can halve it. So for those of you who wanted the half recipe, it was 6, you can do 5 or 6 boiled eggs. I did 1/3 of a cup of sweetener, 1/3 of a cup of cacao powder, and I did a jar of the coconut cream, not the milk. So So the cream is smaller, only 270 grams, 70 mils, whereas the milk is bigger, because I saw that somebody said hers was too runny. Again, I'm not sure. It may be that it didn't get whipped enough. Now, I also reckon, and I'm going to do this next time, that you could do it with cream if you didn't like that coconut flavour. I made the mousse. It was amazing. Oh, goody, goody. So yes, I think it's a ripper, and I think for people that are wanting something different for breakfast. Now, again, I didn't make it super sweet because I don't eat sweet stuff anymore. And if I did make it super sweet, I'd probably want to eat the whole jar. And you know, for me, it's always this idea of, is something helpful or unhelpful? It's unhelpful if I want to eat more than I actually need to eat. So this is looking good. So remember, you can just adapt anything you like to the flavours. You can put in as much flavour. Not only is the chicken trying to escape, but so is a bit of eggplant. You can put in whatever recipes, whatever vegetables you like, but that looks good. So I'm just going to stir through now some spinach, because I do like to just fling a bit of that in. And I don't know, put in about whatever, a few handfuls. And to get that just right, put the lid on again. Just let that thing. I'm going to get a bowl and show you. Because really, lockdown, schmock down, you can eat good food in lockdown. So this has been, I started the show a bit late, so we're just over half an hour, and that's it. And that was me yakking as well, and chicken trying to escape. But that's it. So, basically, now if you want to serve this with cauliflower rice, you could, there's a sauce with it. I'm a bowl girl these days. I don't have a lot of, I can't be bothered to make another, you know, dirty up another pot. If I wanted to thicken it up, I could put the cauliflower through it. If you're with a family and they're wanting to eat pasta, you could do that. Now, I haven't put my olives in because I've got an anti-olive family. I'm the only one that eats olives, so I'll put some olives on top. But look at that. It's blooming beautiful. Fresh, lots of protein, a bit of good fat in it. Not lots of fat, but some veggies. So delicious, so nutritious. And I think that this is going to be a winner. I'd love to come up with a name. I mean, I could just call it za'atar, whatever it is, tangy za'atar chicken, or zingy chicken, or something like that. But I'll have a think about it. Might have to have a taste before I name it. It's a bit like, kind of like you're naming your children, really, isn't it? You sometimes have to clap eyes on them before you know. So my lovelies, that's it. The summaries, you can eat low-carb real food real quick. Focus on what you can control. When we spend all our energy focusing on the things we can't control, we then miss an opportunity to focus on the things we can control. Remembering it's normal to feel anxious, it's normal to be annoyed, frustrated when things are out of our control. They're all normal. You're allowed to have those feelings, they're absolutely normal. But work out what is helpful to you and what is unhelpful. Mousse is good as long as you don't eat the whole bowl. Keep it less sweet than normal. That's the summary, my loves. I'll see you all next week. Hope you have a wonderful week wherever you are. If you're in lockdown, schmockdown, I'm with you. What is that thing? Hunger Games. We're here. And if you're not, well, make sure you enjoy your freedom and don't take it for granted. Bye, darlings.